What's up?
Hey, welcome back to another Get Geekish podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Bino, that's Derek over there, whichever way I'm supposed to point at him in the video. Say hi to the people, Derek.
Hi, people.
We are talking movies this week, because it's one of the things we love. And not just any movies, not just new movies, but we're talking about movie sequels. Once long ago, we did a whole podcast about sequels that were as good, if not better, than the original. Mm-hmm. And we're going to kind of go back in the other direction, and we're going to talk about sequels that probably shouldn't have been made. There's been a lot of them.
And this has been in my head at a forefront because right now my son is obsessed with Toy Story. So, we have Toy Story 1, pretty solid flick. Toy Story 2, I enjoyed, a lot of people didn't like. Toy Story 3 was fantastic, and I felt it was a perfect wrap to it. And then you come out with Toy Story 4. While it was fun, it didn't need to be made. It is honestly one of my least favorite. It is my least favorite Toy Story, hands down. And they kind of just took all the other movies and went, eh.
So I feel like for the animated movies, especially the Disney ones, that seems to be a thing to do because it is just a cash grab. Like the Toy Story 4, was it an awful, terrible, horrible movie? No, it just wasn't good and it didn't need to be there. But you look at all their animated movies, they had Cinderella. They made 3 Cinderellas. They had The Lion King, and they had The Lion King 2, and The Lion King 2.5. They had Aladdin, and then they had Aladdin 2, and then another Aladdin 3.
Well, watch it though. The Return of Jafar is actually pretty decent, and Lion King 1.5 or whatever it was kind of fun, and Kronk's New Groove was kind of fun as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying those were all terrible, but that's the thing. When you have an animated success movie, they put out more of them no matter what it is. And they also have to keep it, because if they put out a Disney movie, then within a month there's going to be some other knockoff studio that instead of Aladdin, they've got the Prince of Arabia with some character that looks exactly like the Disney cover sitting next to it at the video store.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that we'll go ahead and just throw a majority of the direct-to-VHS Disney sequels that the 90s and the early 2000s put out, because that was, they had like The Little Mermaid 2 and everything like that, and while some people enjoy them, they didn't need to be made. My whole thing with Toy Story 4 is, again, it was fun, but it flat out, that movie did not need to be made. They wrapped up the series almost perfectly. I wish that they would have ended Toy Story 3 with the toys going up into the attic and then Andy coming back when he had a family of his own and being like, hey, I feel like that would have been better than giving them to Bonnie, but spoiler alert. But I just feel like Toy Story 4, hands down, just did not need to be made. They didn't need to progress the story because it had wrapped up perfectly in the other one, and this was a flat out cash grab.
I feel like it would have been better had they just completely gone off the cuff and found some new toys to go follow.
Yeah.
Like if Woody hadn't been the main character, he was there and then kind of passed the torch on to a new group of toys that they could make a whole new franchise off of. That seemed like it would have been a little more
I also have my thoughts too. I wish that they would have on Toy Story 2, that was the whole thing of like, oh, Woody's going to go to Japan. I wish he would have actually went to Japan. Toy Story 3 would have been the toys going to Japan to bring him back, and then Toy Story 4 could have been what Toy Story 3 was. That would have been fun to see. But anyway, let's not spend too much time on Toy Story. I've been watching a lot of it. I'm just like, 4 it didn't need to be made.
Pop quiz hotshot. How many Land Before Time movies were made?
What, there's like 8, 9, 10?
14.
14?
14 Land Before Time movies, plus an animated series, plus a video game, and 5 soundtracks.
What was the video game?
It was... Oh, wait, no, there's a whole list of them. There was...
No,
they're like kids' apps. Yeah, forget that. We're not going down that route. But first Land Before Time, loved that movie.
Yeah.
Watched it over and over again, especially in Spanish, because it was one of the only Spanish movies my Spanish teacher had in high school. So every time there was a substitute, it was Land Before Time in Espanol. They didn't translate Sharptooth, though, just FYI.
Good to know. So I think I think I've seen... I think at one point, my grandma rented them, and when we were having a sleepover, all the cousins and everything, there was I think we saw the first 3. I don't remember honestly anything about 2 or 3. 1 watched all the time. Did that one did we need more of that one? No, we especially didn't need 13 more of them.
Yeah.
My God, dude, I didn't know there was that many Land Before Times.
Every time we go, I'm like, oh wait, there's a box set. What the 14?
Oof.
And I
What
figure
about,
most movies, when you start getting to the excessive numbers, when you get to 3, 4, 5, usually that's not a good sign. Given the old Superman movies, you start into Superman 3 and 4. They were at least they were superhero movies, so it started to get, but they got a little iffy towards the end of it. You get into Child's Play 2 and 3, and that Problem Child 2 and Problem Child 3, and like
Bride of Chucky. Well, and that's the thing too, is like even with the old Christopher Reeve Superman, the one with Richard Pryor, yeah, it has some moments, but that one definitely did not need to be made. Like, I get where they're going, but like, it's honestly, I can't. It's hard to watch those.
Yeah, it's tough.
And that's just like and this is what scares me, because Hollywood is kind of doing that, like, oh, this franchise was good, let's revamp it. Like, one that comes to mind is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Was I excited for it? Yes. Did I enjoy it? No.
See, if I chop off the last 20 minutes and pretend that part didn't happen, the rest of it was still fairly enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, there's parts where you like roll your eyes and everything like that. But I mean, like, did that movie need to be made? It did not. Should have had maybe a different story since they made it? Yes, but that's a whole different podcast. But did it need to be made? No. Do they need to be making the new one with ancient Indiana Jones now? No.
Maybe they'll surprise us, but I'm going to go see it. But
and that's the same thing that scares me with the new Matrix too. Is am I excited for it? Yes, but does it also look like it's just going to be a rehash of the first Matrix, kind of like how Force Awakens was, how we talked about on the last podcast or Tupac, whatever it was? Mm-hmm. Like, because that's what scares me is like, are they making these just to like be like, oh yeah, we're kind of revamping it, but it's just giving you more of what you already know. Like, again, I'm excited for it, but just looking at the preview, I'm like, I need more context because this looks like a repeat of Matrix.
Yeah, when sequels are just the same plot, it's rough. I look at ones like comedy movies, the worst for that. Things like Meet the Fockers, and then there was Little Fockers. Like, hey, how can we take these exact same 26 jokes and put them in a different context? Everyone will love it. The Hangover, Part 2 and Part 3.
That's what
Here's the same jokes over and over and over again. Paul Blart 2. Like, give me something new here.
I think one of the worst ones where I didn't laugh at all was Grown Ups 2.
Grown Ups 1 wasn't even that good.
Yeah, Grown Ups 1 wasn't even that good, but we got free tickets from the station, so we went and saw it, and I did not laugh hard. I don't think I laughed at all through that movie. It's just, you're right, comedy movies try to, I mean, well, how many police academies are there, and how many of those actually need to be made?
I still loved them and watched them as a kid, but
oh yeah,
I actually just watched 2 of those last weekend, believe it or not. But did they need to make 6 of them? Probably not.
Well, that's just what, like, Airplane 2 is, again, the whole thing of like kind of a rehash of the first one.
Yeah, Airplane 1, one of the greatest comedy movies ever. Airplane 2, funny jokes, but nobody talks about Airplane 2. Like, oh yeah, they made that. All right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, and even Independence Day, right? So you have that fantastic movie. It was solid as a single movie. What is it, Resurgence or whatever? Mm-hmm. Did it need to be made?
You know, so many of them take the plots and either repeat and rehash the exact same storyline and plot, or they take a great story that had a good beginning, middle, and end and wrap things up, and then try and completely change everything and the dynamic and the characters and the feel. And like, if they're, it's Secret of Nim. There's one. Old cartoon from the 80s. Super dark, like, deep storyline, all kinds of things happening, and then they make a sequel to it a few years later that is a happy, bright and shiny, singing crappy sing-along songs for an hour and a half. Like, those movies should not even be related, let alone a sequel.
Gotta be honest with you, I didn't know there was a sequel to Secret of Nim.
Yeah. You know they made a sequel to The Mask as well, The Son of the Mask?
Yeah, I know that. I never saw it.
Yeah. The preview and the cover was enough for me to say, nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tried to cash in. And that's another thing of like, I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast too, of trying to remake movies or do sequels without the original cast. Mm-hmm. You know, you look at what the prequel to Dumb and Dumber, when Harry met Lloyd.
Dumber and Dumber, whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, when Harry met Lloyd or whatever, like when they did the prequel of how they met and they didn't have the original actors in there, like, again, Dumb and Dumber 2 was fun. Didn't necessarily need to be made, especially, 20 years after the fact? Not 30 years, but 15, 20 years after the fact.
I will hand it to that one, though. I'm with you, too. It was not an amazing movie, but at least when they rehashed the jokes, they almost kind of made fun of themselves rehashing the jokes. Like it was, yeah, remember that? Okay, but then they tried to do something different. So they at least kind of acknowledged like they're not going to do the cash grab of the same joke 30 years later without poking some fun at it. I'll give them a mulligan on that. Right.
But I mean, at least they got, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels back in that, because it would not have been great. Like you have the sequels to Home Alone, where it's honestly after Home Alone 2, there's 3 or 4 without Macaulay Culkin, and
yeah, even number 3 was rough. And that one had Macaulay in it still.
No, it didn't.
Didn't you sure?
He was only in 1 and 2. Macaulay, Home Alone 3 was some other weird kid. I never saw it because I looked at the thing and went, man, that's not the Home Alone I want.
Well, I'll be looking at that. I am. Ouch. Lost a geek card, didn't I?
No, you didn't. Well, and then the thing is you look at, again, this is the whole thing of the animated movies. You get the children's family movies like that, where they're again, first one, great. Second one, great. They kind of repeated some of the same stuff, but changed location. Home Alone 3, I'm pretty sure, is basically the same as the first one, just they have to keep coming up with reasons to leave them at home. I think they're doing a TV series or revamping the movie. I don't know. And then you look at Sandlot 2, which I've never watched, because, again, you take a movie that wrapped up perfectly and be like, okay, now look forward,
Well, how many years were we all clamoring to hopefully they were going to make a Goonies 2? If they'd ever made a Goonies 2, it would not have been anywhere near the original.
I'm pretty sure they still are. But the thing is with the Goonies 2, and then again, this is the thing where I'm excited if they still are making it, because the talk of the original cast getting brought in, and then it's going to continue with their kids. I'm kind of okay with that, kind of what Indiana Jones should have done, but it didn't work.
If it's done right, but if they were just going to do the movie of, here's the kids 10 years later moving on to something else, no.
Yeah.
I'd love to be in the pitch room of some of these movies too. Imagine in the little executive's office after Speed came out with Keanu Reeves and a big hit. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing, but it's going to be on the boat this time. All right? Hear me out here. They can't slow down on a boat.
I remember watching. So what? Sandra Bullock came back in that. Keanu didn't, because there's some reasons, or he probably just saw the script and was like, no way, man.
I've got standards.
Right? But yeah, I remember watching Speed 2, and it's not as high stake as a bus that can't go below 55 miles per hour on, in busy LA or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that one.
Another worse sequel that I've never seen, but why would anybody even think about making this? Bruce Davidson and Brooke Burns starred 100 years later with lightning striking twice in Titanic 2. How do you make a sequel to a movie that is loosely based on a historical event?
How did they make a sequel?
I don't know.
That's
just looking at the cover, you're like, why would this? This is like something you see on the Sci-Fi Channel at 4:00 in the morning when you wake up and have the munchies.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, you could go down a whole Sharknado alley on that one of why those can do this cash grab, right?
2/3 of the Troma Studios catalog.
True.
Class of Nukem High 4, Bikini Car Wash 6. Okay, here we go.
See, it's funny. It's I don't know. When I was thinking of this, I was thinking the main big name movies, right? And even the ones where they try to replace the cast. Perfect example, Mummy.
The Mummy series.
Mummy 2 is fantastic. I love that movie still. The kid was kind of annoying, but I still love it.
Scorpion King was garbage.
It was okay.
Garbage.
It's okay for what it is. Scorpion King 2, no, awful. Again, that's the whole thing, is where you don't bring back the original actor. So then you have is it the Curse of the Dragon Tomb or Dragon Emperor, where they replace Evie, but she's still Evie because Rachel Weisz or whatever didn't want to come back. So it's like, it's still a fun movie because Brendan Fraser is a treasure, but it's when they're pretending that the actress is the same person, you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, at least write him out. Pull a Michael Bay and make a one-line joke about replacing her or something like that. Like,
right? I mean, we could even talk about the Transformers, how those shouldn't have been made, but they're still going. They're still going.
How about Jaws 2? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Jaws 1 end with the shark getting blown to smithereens in the ocean?
Mm-hmm. What Jaws 2 was supposed to be the kid? Or no, which one's the... There's a Revenge where it's like the kid of the
I don't remember. Jaws 2 is the one where the shark basically goes back and like hunts people down like a freaking assassin robot.
Well, and then you have Jaws 3D that didn't need to be made. You have all the piranhas. I mean, this piranhas, great. Piranhas 2, Piranhas 3, Double D, you know, all those different... What, you got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was a fantastic film alone, even the remake, but then you go to like the beginnings and then the other one, and you're like, okay, guys.
Yeah, you got in the Halloween movies, the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Halloween series. Like,
some people would argue with us and fight with us that some of those are way better than the originals or like the series, but that's great. Again, though, you look at some of them like what has it? People are going to get mad at me. I've only seen the remake of Halloween. I haven't seen any of the other ones, and I've only seen the remake of Friday the 13th. No, I've only seen the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, and only parts of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. But I've read enough about them.
Let's preface this here because we're talking about sequels that shouldn't have been made. We're not necessarily saying all these movies were terrible and that they sucked. Like, and that's 6 Nightmare on Elm Streets. They were still entertaining to a point, but did they need to be made is the question here.
And that's what I was saying.
One
That's
of the
what I was
best
getting
moments
to.
we ever had was we watched the entire Nightmare on Elm Street box set after a night of emptying a lot of bottles, and basically Mystery Science Theater 3000, the entire box set in a weekend. That was a good time.
I'm proud of you for watching a horror movie.
I'll watch them here and there, you know.
But what I was getting at was like Halloween 2.0 or H2O or whatever it was called, where like, you know, I mean, because I've read enough about some of these movies where it's just like there's...
Was it Jason X that was in, or Jason in Space or something like that?
I mean, look at the Leprechaun series too. I mean, with the horror movies in general have the same bad habit of the animated movies, where one's successful, 2 is okay, and then they're like, well, what else can we do? And then you do this, and then you have another studio that's like, oh, did you see that slasher one? Let's change it a little bit and make it the same movie.
Hello,
so
Saw 5.
What?
Hello, Saw 5.
That's another thing. Saw 1 was fantastic.
I like Saw 1. There was a couple scenes that made me kind of queasy, but for somebody that's not into horror movies, I still really enjoyed the first Saw. Like, it was a thriller.
Did
Saw
they
2
need to make... What are they at right now? 7 of them?
Something like that. Something ridiculous.
Did they need to make that many? No, especially since if you look at the timeline of the Saw movies, like one of them, I think Saw 3 or 4 is like before Saw. They jump around so much and it's hard to follow. So that's another one is like, did they need to do it? Sinister 2, did they need to do a sequel without... I mean, no. Because a lot of horror movies wrap up pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got a list we can bounce off of here. It's right. BuzzFeed's list of 20-some movie sequels that should have never happened. Okay. Top of their list, Pitch Perfect 2 and 3. I know you're an Anna Kendrick fan, but did 2 and 3 need to be made? 2,
yes, because it was still fun. 3, no. Do I own 3? Yes, but did it need to be made? No, not at all. There was no point to the 3. 3 did not need to happen. Continue.
Mean Girls 2. Another one, Mean Girls was a standalone, but it did not need a sequel with all different characters. The original
cast, yeah.
Anchorman 2.
Nope.
I enjoyed it. Did it need to be made? No.
Here's a problem with some of those movies, too. They fall into the SNL hell, if you will, where they think a joke is funny, and then they just keep doing it over and over and over and over. And that's what Anchorman 2 was like you said, they took the premise of the first movie and were like, let's rehash everything and just... not only rehash it, but do the same jokes over and over again and make sure that this is supposed to be a joke. You better laugh. And it wasn't funny.
All right, so Toy Story 3, you already talked about that. Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde. That is another one that why, with the plot of that happening, why do you need to do it again? And they had Legally Blondes after that, which I didn't realize existed, where they got rid of Reese Witherspoon and they had 2 other girls that were legally blondes. I'm going to go out and limb and say that shouldn't have been done. Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. No. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
No.
Grease 2.
I know Grease 2 launched What's-Her-Face's career, but yeah, it didn't need to be made.
No. Zoolander 2. I'm not even sure Zoolander 1 need to be made.
Whoa, Zoolander 1, dude. But no, I'm with you on that. I haven't even seen Zoolander 2 because I heard it's just the repeat of the same one, basically.
Shrek 2, Shrek the Third, and Shrek Forever After.
They're also coming out with another one, so
They were entertaining for what they were, but it's the animated ones. None of them needed to be made, but that doesn't mean they're awful. They're just there. Land Before Time sequels, Despicable Me 3, Mummy 3, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
What was Despicable Me 3?
Despicable Me 3 was the one.
Is that the Rise of Gru?
No, Rise of Gru is coming out next year.
Which Minions didn't need to be made. Hands down didn't. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
That's
so Mummy 3, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales. This puts Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but I'd put Jurassic World 3 way far above Fallen Kingdom.
Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, Jurassic Park 3 was awful. Fallen Kingdom I still have a soft spot for.
Well, that's the thing is, like, even the Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, like, it didn't need to be made. It would have been better if they had brought back, Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, but whatever.
It is. Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, Hunger Games, Mockingjay, which that one, it wasn't that great of a movie, but you can't not do the trilogy. If you're going to do Hunger Games, you can't just do 2 of them.
Look at the Allegiant series. They only did like 2 of those. They didn't finish that thing.
Yeah. I'll look that up. They finished that.
I was going to say, I thought they didn't make the last one because... Anyway.
I'm looking it up right now.
Side quest. Because I'm looking at my bookshelf. Where are they at? Where did I put them?
Divergent Trilogy. I love that our listeners are sticking through this right now.
I know, right? Well, it's the thing is, like, you're looking at that. I'm trying to look at my bookshelf where I put them, because I put them somewhere. My bookshelf's such a mess. What is it? Divergent, Insurgent, Allegiant.
Yeah, so they have an Allegiant out there. So that was the 3rd one. So they did.
Oh, okay.
I thought I saw it. It kind of never did anything in the movie theater. Surprise, surprise. Magic Mike XXL. Can't say I saw the first one, so
yep.
If you love Channing Tatum's abs, I'm sure you'd say that did need to be made. This one hurts my heart a little bit because they put Back to the Future Part 2. I love the Back to the Future trilogy, but did the 2nd and 3rd need to be made? If we go in that argument, they probably didn't, even though I loved them.
Well, that's the thing, too, is like we can still love them, but did they need to be made? No, because that's the thing, too, is you look at... I mean, Back to the Future kind of left it open for sequels. I think the worst is when you have a movie where you watch it, it ends, it packages everything up, right? And you're like, oh, that's pretty good. And then at the end of the credits, they do this stupid, like, huh? And you're like, come on.
Forgot about this one. My Girl 2.
They made a sequel. Oh, they did.
We're going to have a movie where a little girl falls in love with a little boy and he dies. So we're going to make a sequel where she falls in love with the boy that's going to become her cousin, and he's the same guy that he throws her mood ring in a tar pit that she got from the said dead kid from the first movie. Like, who?
Is Dan Aykroyd in that one too?
Hangover Part 2, Princess Diaries 2, Home Alone 3 and 4.
Yeah, see?
Sex and the City 2. And that rounds up the BuzzFeed list of some of the movies that should never have been made.
I will say, like, Hangover 2 is fun, but it's one of those ones where 3 definitely did not need to be made. 3 was just a repeat of exactly the first movie, just with some little things.
And we got the future to look at, too, because now I got one more list we can roll through real quick of the sequels that are coming out in 2022. We got Avatar 2, Blue People Avatar.
Yeah, I know.
Creed 3.
How many? I mean, you could look at the Rocky series.
Mm-hmm. They didn't all need to be made. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2.
Well, okay. The comic book movies, they kind of flow. So
yeah, I'm okay with that. Halloween Ends. At least they have Michael Myers and
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis again for that, I suppose. Mission Impossible 7.
That's one series that keeps getting better with every sequel, though. So
I'll give you that. Minions Rise of Gru, Indiana Jones 5, Jurassic World Dominion, which is supposed to finally wrap up the Jurassic Park series.
Is it, though?
Yeah. Transformers Rise of the Beasts, Thor Love and Thunder, Legally Blonde 3. What?
Did you just go over the Legally... So, wait. You said there's a Legally Blonde 2 and then Legally Blondes. How are they going to 3 now?
Cash grab.
Hollywood?
There must be some dates wrong on this because it also says Top Gun Maverick. Isn't that coming out this year?
No, I think it got pushed back.
Dang. Okay.
That's another one that doesn't need to be...
John Wick Chapter 4.
Okay.
How many dogs can you kill?
Those are fun, though. So I'll allow that one.
I didn't like
But
those.
it's the same thing as like, does it need to be made? No. Am I still going to watch it and have fun with it? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Then we also have Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, Downton Abbey: A New Era, Doctor Strange.
Wait. They're making another Downton Abbey movie?
Yep. Follows the lives of the Crawley family and their servants in the family's Edwardian country house.
Pip, pip, cheerio, and all that.
Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, Death on the Nile, and Scream. They are remaking.
Why? What? Do you want to stream some scary movies?
Better answer your text message on WhatsApp or whatever.
Right? I'm on your Ring doorbell.
Yeah, so sequels, there's a lot of bad ones out there. There's a lot of good ones, and there's quite a few that question why they were ever made.
Well, and the thing is, too, is even, and we admit it, too, there's a lot of sequels that we like and we enjoyed. Did they need to be made? Not necessarily.
Yeah, if you've listened before, you know both of us have a penchant for liking some, well, crappy movies, to say the least. So I'm not going to hold that against anybody. You might love some of these movies, but being able to toe that line of like, oh, it was a good time, but did it really need to get made? When you think of all the time and energy and money and things that go into making some movies, like, was that really worth it for the rest of the world to endure?
Is this just proof Hollywood's running out of ideas?
Yeah. Is it about every 3 years they go through that cycle of saying that Hollywood doesn't come with anything new? Mm-hmm. Like it's nothing's new. It's always, you always got to come up with something that's kind of rehashed from something else.
Well, and even the old people who are like, they got tons of books that they can use. I mean, well, yeah, they do. But for one, has Hollywood ever done a book right? I mean, that's another podcast that we're going to do in the future. But the book to movie adaptations, there's not a lot of them that are done right. Two, a lot of books have the same kind of premise if you break it down. So, it's either the hero's story or hero's journey or, some kind of crime thing or something.
My wife used to be an English teacher, so it's 5 or 7 or whatever the specific types of stories of everything falls into the same basic tropes of these things. So, it's only so much you can do. You just got to find other ways to make it unique.
Yeah.
And there's some stories that look at the baseline of the plot, they're completely generic, but the way they put them together, you're like, oh, that was a wonderful movie. That was a great telling of the hero's journey. It's amazing.
Right. And before anybody says, you guys didn't mention any of the Star Wars, listen to our previous podcast.
Yeah, we talked Star Wars. And we didn't hit all the sequels. We just talked on, some of the best of the worst.
Right.
But, let us know what you think is a sequel that should not exist. Find us on social media at Get Geekish. Throw your comments on there. Love to hear from you, and we will talk at you next week.
Woo!
Thanks for listening. We appreciate it very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. And speaking of more podcasts, we got plenty of them. Check the links.